Hey, welcome back to the channel. This video is a complete masterclass on how to build AI agents. In this video, we will build 3 different AI agents using 2 different platforms. First, we will use ChatGPT's agent builder, AgentKit, to build a newsletter agent. The idea is to explore what ChatGPT Agent Builder is capable of and what are the limitations. Then we will move on to Zapier agents and build 2 agents without any coding. Our first agent in Zapier will be to build personalized sales presentations based on a trigger, and our second agent in Zapier will be on-demand agent to help us repurpose content. Even though these agents are for marketing tasks, but the principles we're going to go through and how we build them is going to be applicable to any use case you could think of. On top of that, as we think through and build these agents, it's going to have you. I hope it should get your thinking wheels going so you can know what's possible and what agents you could start building for yourself, again, without coding using Zapier. So let's get into it. For the AgentKit, it's actually available on developers platform. Let me just search OpenAI AgentKit. So you access this on platform.openai.com/agent-builder. You would need like a developer's account on OpenAI to be able to access this. Technically, like the way AgentKit is built for OpenAI, it's actually meant for like technical users versus non-technical users, but you can still get to it. You can still build it. I think it's not that complicated. So let's get started. So here we see like on the left, we have like different nodes we can add. So agent, end, node, file search, guardrails, MCP, if else, while, user approval, transformation set table. So for now, we're gonna keep things a bit simple. So here we have start. So here our first step is agent. With the agent, we can name it whatever we want. So let's just call it content researcher, and you can give your instructions. So we're gonna keep it very simple, our prompting. You are a content researcher given a topic. Please do research for writing a newsletter for our non-technical business users. Now here we have options for model. So AgentKit is developed by OpenAI, so obviously there's a vendor lock-in here. We can't really access Gemini or Claude or other models. So here we have options for just OpenAI models. You can play around with these settings. This is where the fine-tuning kind of goes in, like how you really craft and refine your agent to work to the results you want. Different models, different like reasoning efforts and stuff like that. And then you want to have tools as an option. So here right now, our agent has these instructions, but it needs tools to be able to actually perform the task. So here we go, and we're just going to select web search as a tool. Well, we have more options. We can define certain websites it could be like going through. So maybe again, we are in academia or something. We only want to reference publicly available academic articles, or we can just leave it open. Just the whole internet is on our platter. Now I'm just going to add another agent step here, and I'm just going to connect it. And in this case, I'm going to call it my content writer. So I'm going to ask it to use the research done, and then I'm going to add context. I'm going to use the output from our content research step provided below, and please turn that into newsletter that is easy to read for our non-technical users. Again, keeping the prompts very simple. Like this is where you can start defining like how you want the structure of your newsletter to be. You want to be as detailed as possible in your prompt. You want to give it the output format. Maybe like that your output should be like structure, introduction paragraph, 3 bullet points and the summary and stuff like that. So let me show you the example here then. So here we have a workflow that we're building here. So we have start. So start here is triggered by a conversation. So all the agents built on AgentKit are only conversation-based trigger. So when you deploy, you're going to deploy this on a website, on a code somewhere, so you can chat with this agent. So in this scenario, when we start, we're going to give it like a topic. When we give it the topic, it's going through Guardrails, which we will talk about, and then it will do content research. So our content research agent will do the research here on the topic which is provided. And then we have our second step, which is content writer, which will take all the research and then turn that into a newsletter that's now converted into a Google Doc. And our third step here is a script writer, which will take the research again, convert that into a YouTube script, and send me as a Slack message. And then we end. Does that make sense?
So what are the inputs and what are the outputs?
So our input is our topic. Our output is a Google Doc with a newsletter draft and a Slack message with a summary, like with a script for the YouTube video. Okay, going back to the build. So our first step here was agent researcher, where our input was this prompt, and we added a tool which was web search. Our second step is content writer, where our instructions are to research based on this, and then we're going to add, please create a new Google Doc and add with the newsletter draft.
Why are you saying please?
Just to have it, just to have it. Now here we're asking it to create a Google Doc, but how do we create a Google Doc? So here, when we go to tools, we see some options here. We see something called MCP server. So here we have a few tools that have direct integration with OpenAI already. So we have Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, email, Outlook, and we have some third-party tools. But you will see Google Doc doesn't exist. So the way we incorporate Google Docs or other tools is leveraging Zapier's MCP. In simple words, it's like a bridge to connect with all the applications that Zapier integrates with already. So we're just gonna connect through Zapier's API, and we're just able to leverage all its connections. So here I would have to enter Zapier's API key. So I have it here. So I'm just gonna copy my API key and I'm gonna put it here. I'm just gonna connect. So now when I connect my Zapier API key, I can see all the tools that I have available that I can just give this AI agent to talk with, to do whatever actions it wants to do. But in this scenario, I don't want to give all these options. It's just going to make the process a bit slower, and there's more options for errors because I know I just want Google Docs. So I'm going to unselect all these tools. I'm just going to search for create document from text, Google Docs, and I'm just going to add that as my step. So this is my first step. So like, for my output essentially. Now I can add another agent here. I'm going to connect it. And in this scenario, I'm just going to say, please use, or maybe we should not say please, just to skip the please. Use the research. Well, now you say it, and I got to add the please here. Please use the research and turn that into a YouTube video script and send me Slack message with the script. Now we're going to go back to tool. We're going to go to MCP server. I'm going to go back to Zapier. Again, you see the bug here. I have to add my API key every single time, which is why I have it open. Again, this is a bug. I'm sure they're going to fix it. It's annoying when you build it. So in this case, I'm just going to select Slack as my action or my tool, Slack send direct message. So this is what you can define. You can define if you want approval at every step of the way. Always require approval for all tool calls. Never require approval or configure based on specific sort of scenarios. Okay, and if this is all we want to do, then we will just then add end, and we will just connect. So most of the agent builders are pretty much the same. Couple things that's happening within AgentKit that kind of gives it more power. One is adding guardrails. So if I add a guardrail step here, I can maybe again, just by definition, add some guardrails here. There's an option where I can enable that it can detect and redact any personal identifiable information. Moderation, again, anything that's blocks harmful content and stuff like that. Jailbreaks, detecting prompt injection and jailbreak and attempting to keep the model on task. So I can enable sort of these guardrails, hallucination or whatnot, and I can just add that as my step. So I can just disconnect this step. I can add it to my guardrail first, and if it passes, only then we run our agent. And then if it fails, again, I could do anything I want, but in this case, I'll just do an end. So this is pretty much the agent, and let's see, live demo. Anyone yell out a topic?
How effective is AI in business?
Okay. How effective is AI in business? Let's see. Business operations. Okay. There might be an errors that will come through. We'll see what happens here. Because again, when you're building stuff, you gotta have to troubleshoot, things happen. And our prompting is pretty poor here. So I don't know what the results are gonna be, but let's put this to test. Okay, so we went through guardrail. It should pass. And now we have a content researcher working. So this is what AgentKit agent would kind of look like in real life as well, where it's gonna be a text-based stuff. It's gonna go through different steps. I mean, this is preview, so you're going to see all the steps, but I think in the actual build, you're not going to be able to see this. That being said, I haven't really actually deployed it in production yet, so I don't know what that UI looks like specifically. So just want to kind of give you a heads up here. So lots in the research. Now we have content writer. It's turning that into a newsletter. And there's an approval step here. So let's approve it. This is my different browser, so I'm just going to go to my Google Docs here. And let's see if we have how effective is AI in business. So we have our Google Doc with some references and just some newsletter. Again, we didn't really give it a structure for the newsletter, so we'll really hold it against the agent here. And let's see if there's a Slack message somewhere. I don't see it. Also, I don't want to try to look for it through my Slack here. But yeah, I mean, this is what we told our agent. So I mean, you have to take my word for it that it also sent it to Slack. If there's troubleshooting, it didn't happen, I'll just have to go troubleshoot there for that agent. If we go to Zapier, as you can see here, if we are doing Perplexity chat completion, forget about the context around this, but I just want to show you here. User message here, it says, let your agent generate a value for this field. So this is where like the agentic piece is happening right now, where some of these steps in some of the workflows, where we're letting AI agent decide the value for certain fields, which is where some of the decision is happening. And this is like the extent of AI agents that are currently in production. When a new lead is added to my CRM, use Perplexity chat to research the company, then use the company information and our sales pitch template in Google Docs to create personalized sales pitch for the company as presentation in Gamma. So this is essentially the workflow, and the way I built it is using these instructions. If I go to the slide where we talk about the spectrum, so if we compare this part or this part to here, what's happening here is that we have our new lead that's kind of coming in. That's our trigger. We can see our trigger is a new spreadsheet row. This could be your CRM. This could be like, your Salesforce. It could be your Asana, whatever CRM you're using that integrates with Zapier, whatever trigger you define. Then we have agent piece where we have instructions, we have knowledge, we have tools. Here we have tools. We have ChatGPT completion, we have Gamma generation, and our knowledge is happening in Google Docs. This is where our knowledge is sitting right now. And then we have our tools, we have instructions, which is what we're typed out here. That when this happens, run a Perplexity chat. We're not really defining our prompts in Perplexity here. We're letting it define its own prompt, and then we're just taking the result at its face value. So like what I've seen so far, this is like the level of agentic that kind of actually works at the moment. For it to be a lot more autonomous, with more decision making, as you're saying. And examples of that could be like, again, to the extent that's possible right now, is we can say like score the lead, and if it's a high value lead, only then proceed forward to the next step kind of thing. And we don't really define what the high value lead is, and we're letting AI agent define what the high value lead is at the moment kind of thing. Our input here is like a research paper, and our output here is feedback on the research paper and suggestions to improve. And in between the process, we need to find the research paper we can compare with. That's possible. So in this scenario, what I would do here, I would define my trigger. So my trigger needs to be like, somehow I'm adding a new research paper as my input. That could be sending an email as an attachment. It could be adding as a file in Google Drive. With that trigger, I would have my prompt as like, based on the right tool who can access those research papers, go find this research paper. If that research paper is publicly available, I can ask Perplexity to go search the research paper in that field and then compare it to the well-written research papers, or define what a well-written research paper is, and then kind of give me the feedback as an output. And my output format could be a Google Doc, it could be a Slack message, it could be an email, based on what tool I use and what I define it to be. The quality of the results is going to be as good as LLMs that exist. I mean, agents are leveraging existing LLMs and their reasoning capabilities. I can define the model it should use. I can say maybe use Claude 4.5. I can say maybe use Gemini 3.0, or like Sonar, which is a Perplexity API. The quality of the reasoning is not going to be determined by the agent itself. That's determined on the LLM and its reasoning capabilities. So if you're not able to get that reason, without the agentic workflow, it's not going to work. So the way I would approach this is like using the tool I want to test. I would just test with the tool more manually, and if it works, then put it together as a workflow, as an agent. I can just kind of show you the quick steps. I can just, and then we can see. So essentially, I just use Zapier here. I went to Zapier agents, and I can build my agent on Zapier. These are a lot more agentic than what we saw on like OpenAI's platform. But okay, so let's just say I can start from scratch. There's a copilot. You can kind of define what you want to do. I just prefer doing it from scratch because it's just easier for me that way. I can see the screen here. So here I have a trigger. So to answer someone's question, like how does this agent work and stuff like that, we define the trigger. So if we go to trigger, there's an options for on demand. So this is more like conversation based or through their Chrome extension where I say like, now run this agent. The other option is schedule. So let's say if we want to like run an agent to write a newsletter on a weekly basis, we can do like a weekly schedule, which is gonna, just run automatically at a certain date or time that we define. Or trigger via Zap, which is where we have another Zapier automation that's running and it's gonna trigger it. Or we can trigger it through another app or like a workflow. So here, let's just say for trigger from a CRM. So I'm just using Google Sheets as an example, like I said, to keep things simple. I can just pick a trigger when a new spreadsheet row is added. Now I will just define what that spreadsheet row is and just connect my sheet. And now I have it defined pretty much. Now I'm just gonna add my instructions to follow. So let me, if I can just copy my instructions here. I'm just gonna say, when a new lead is added to my CRM, use Perplexity chat. Again, just a tool I'm using. You could use web search, you could use ChatGPT's API, whatever you may wanna use here. And to research the company, then use the company information and our sales pitch template in Google Docs to create a personalized sales pitch for the company as a presentation in Gamma. So here I have my tools. So if I go to Perplexity here, I just have to connect my account. I can pick the model, or I can just say, let your agent select the value for this field. This is where some of that thinking and like autonomous piece is happening, where it's deciding automatically which model would best for this specific use case. User message. I don't have to prompt. I'm just gonna let AI decide what to prompt in this scenario. And I'm gonna left all the fields kind of like be auto-generated by AI when I run this workflow. And then here for my Google Docs, this is where I wanna specify the value. I can let AI decide, but it's gonna make mistakes. It could just pick up a wrong document and now my whole workflow kind of breaks. So in this scenario, I define this specific like document ID, which is where I just like put together here just like some details on Prompt Genie. So I can kind of refer to that for the slide deck creation. So I'm just gonna save this here. And then to create personalization pitches, I'm connecting my tool for the presentations, which in this case is Gamma. So it's my account is connected, my input text, I'm not defining it. I'm letting AI choose that input text. Text mode, format, I could, again, just letting AI define it what it is, or I can just use default presentations so it doesn't generate anything else. Or I'm just, you know what, I'm just gonna let agent decide this field as well. So all these fields, what should be like the output language, audience, and tone, I'm just letting AI decide. So let's just save and agent preview. So let's just test this agent now. So if we compare this part or this part to here, what's happening here is that we have our new lead that's kind of coming in. That's our trigger. We can see our trigger is a new spreadsheet row. This could be your CRM. This could be like, you know, your Salesforce. It could be your Asana, whatever CRM you're using that integrates with Zapier, whatever trigger you define. Then we have agent piece where we have instructions, we have knowledge, we have tools. Here we have tools. We have ChatGPT completion, we have Gamma generation, and our knowledge is happening in Google Docs. This is where our knowledge is sitting right now. And then we have instructions, which is what we're typed out here. That when this happens, you know, run a Perplexity chat. We're not really defining our prompts in Perplexity here. We're letting it define its own prompt, and then we're just taking the result at its face value. Like, again, like I was saying earlier, like in the presentation, like just stringing these together and like building a workflow that works takes like, you know, it's 80% of the work apparently, but it takes like 20% of the time. Real effort actually comes in the last 20%, where you have to refine the prompt, you have to like connect your Gamma properly, so you're getting on-brand designs, which is where 80% of the time is going to take for that 20% of the task. So here's our agent in preview. So this is a model it chose, Sonar Deep Research. I just put up some random stuff. Let's just approve. In reality, again, you can define the approval of like the steps. I think in this scenario, it'll be auto approve. This is just for the preview where we have to do approval. Of course, because you have to approval every single step of the way, it wouldn't make sense, right? So you can have an options where you can just have no approval whatsoever. Let's let it run wild. I mean, if you're curious, I've actually just ran the same example earlier today, so I can just show you what it looks like now. So here it did the research, and then we have approval. So it's getting a pitch template from the Google Doc first. So it got the template, then it completed the web search, and then this is where it's picking up stuff from Gamma, which is what the question was. We can look at the format it shows, presentation, number of cards, text mode generate, tone, input text, company overview, and this is like all the text it generated based on my company. So you can see talks about Prompt Genie, talks about Nimbus Labs, which is, if we see it, look at the sample data, this is what we have, Nimbus Labs. I just asked AI ChatGPT to generate a sample CRM here, like just something simple. So this is how this data is coming from. So this is like, the text looks good when I'm testing this out. So when I ran this agent, this is what I got, like, hey, it's all done. And it kind of gave me the ID for that Gamma presentation it generated. And I was kind of confused, like what to do here. So I had to like do a bit of digging up to understand like, where's the presentation? There's like a separate tab here, which was like API generated, which is where my presentation was. As you can see, 3 hours ago. So it's like, it was a live build, not trying to put a lot of like just decorations onto this demo and just make it look fancy. And if I go through the presentation, this is what it was. So talked about AI-powered consulting experience, their solution, AI tools for consulting teams across NetSuite and Salesforce projects. It's building consulting playbook for them. talks about the Chrome extension for client work. So it's like kind of brought in the personalization from the company and then to like my product, and it generated the slide deck for me. Again, very simple example. I didn't really mess with like the formatting and like building the sample template within Gamma for it to actually like do that for me, which is where I said like the refining really comes in to get it right based on what you want. Ideally, if you have a sample template, you put that in, you ask it to refer that. So every time you're just generating based on that template. Maybe in a template you have variable fields, it can automatically fill in those variable fields for the presentation template in the tool that you can connect with your automation or agent platform.
Do you have any workflow yourself where it contacts you and says, do you like this? And you give it an actual extra input and then it keeps the flow?
No, not something I'm using right now personally. All my agents, like once I've like kind of built them, I build them in a way like just kind of gets me those results. And again, like, you know, when you think about building these, I wouldn't like start building them for critical tasks. I would start them for tasks that have like lower stakes at first, and then just kind of test my way there. And then maybe like once things are getting better, there's more like accuracy built into these systems, more dependency and reliability, then I would start like adding more tasks, more like higher stakes tasks in terms of like accuracy. Because like getting the precision is like the harder part. You can kind of get 80% of the things over there. Like one of the things that we do sometimes, or we used to do before we got Fin, was like every time we would get a customer email, like customer support email, we would have it run through our like, you know, FAQs kind of thing, or our documentation, support documentation, and draft an email response automatically. We don't do that anymore because we want to connect other tools. Now we just use Fin automatically just because of the integration onto like, you know, just the platform itself. As an example, the other one I run is for like newsletters sometimes. I mean, like right now it's stopped right now. It's just because of marketing strategy. But for Prompt Genie, the newsletter was that, again, you know, we have a week. So based on the week, it's about prompting. So we look at any new prompting principles, products that were being released. So we extract that. And then from there, we just create like a newsletter topic and create a Google document draft. And that's being sent, notification is being sent to someone on the team who then just reviews it manually and then changes that into Beehive and just publishes it. Again, that's kind of like a lower stake task for us where we can let AI do a lot of the work there. It's not really impacting like business as much. For those scenarios, like I said, you know, the testing is really critical. And then for that, depending on like either using a third-party platform, which has all that baked in, like, you know, Fin for conversational agents, or you want to like do a custom build, we can do all that testing like on your data and proprietary LLMs and stuff like that. Question over there?
What do you think is one of the most basic, simple tasks that we should start with if we're just getting started? Like we can start with low stakes stuff. What would be
I would say like sales or marketing stuff internally is good stuff. I mean, like we just said, like, you know, as a sales presentation generator, like anyone here doing sales, that's a good one. Like lead researcher stuff, like scoring leads, like kind of stuff like that. It's more internal and you're going to have human in the loop anyway before final step. Like from a framework perspective, like if you have humans in the loop before final decision is made, I would say start there. But if you're trying to remove human in the loop right off the bat, you're going to fail more often than not, is what I would say.
Can you have inputs such as like image or voice, sound, videos?
Yes and no. So depending on how you structure it, one of my workflows is basically like reviewing the partnerships contract I get. It's not an agent, it's a workflow. So every time I'm getting a email with a contract for like any brand partnership, it's parsing the PDF, which is a step that goes through. And I'm getting a Slack message with red and yellow flags to look for in the contract. I mean, again, I would read the contract myself, but like just knowing this clause based on certain things I've defined, like, you know, like most of the time, they're going to maybe put perpetuity use in there. They're going to maybe put payment clause in there that's like net 60, net 90 versus like net 30 should be the standard. So what's happening is that my trigger is email, where the information is coming from. There's a filter, look for the emails with contract or sponsorship or something in the subject line. If there's an attachment, go through the attachment. And now I'm using, I think, ChatGPT API there because it can reason through like documents and stuff. And now it's going through a criteria where what I define what a red or yellow flag is. And then I get a Slack message of that red and yellow flag. I mean, if anyone's interested in that, I actually have a tutorial on my YouTube, so you can just go watch that one. That's one example there. You just need a trigger where the files are being uploaded. And usually a safe bet is like Google Drive. One of the image processing one is like, I mean, I don't know, whoever is like has to do expenses, you have to keep track of all the receipts. So my workflow is that every time I go somewhere for coffee, I just take a photo of my receipt and I send myself, I've created a private channel in my Slack. I just send a Slack message of the receipt. First it goes to Google Drive. So I have like a, you know, long-term storage for all my receipts. Then I will run it through ChatGPT image API. So it can parse through all the data, it can go through the category, PST, GST, date, location, all that stuff, and add that data into my spreadsheet, which I just share it with my accountant when they ask for all the expenses I did. Again, all I'll have to do is just take a photo. It's in my Google Doc, in my Google Drive, and it's like a spreadsheet all done for me, which is an example of AI workflow where I'm like reasoning over like images. Videos, you can't really reason over videos just yet, except Gemini actually testing 2 days ago. Gemini can now reason over videos. So I think if you're able to use Gemini's API and you can just pass a video, you can do that. But again, you have to be wary of the cost it's going to run through. If you're doing it at scale, you're going to start adding up those costs, the more tokens and stuff that you utilize. But let me see if I can pull it up right now in my Zaps history.
Is it one of the agents that's already a template, or is it you have to create your own?
I have a template here. Like on my YouTube, I've kind of put a link for the template too. So this is where the workflow looks like. New file, upload to Google Drive, analyze image, extract structured data, and then create a spreadsheet row. I mean, this is like automation workflows kind of thing. Here, I'm like just asking it for the values to extract. Vendor business, date of the receipt, expense category, tip given, GST, PST, total amount. And it's extracting all that and putting that into my sheets. Let's see, real test here. October 15th, Shenu Bakery, 1479, bakery, cafe, food, drinks. Are we ready for the last one? So we're gonna go back to agents, create a new one, gonna start from scratch. I'm just gonna copy paste here just for saving time, essentially the same thing. So here, I'm gonna show you a different trigger. In this case, my trigger is on demand. So the way you can use on demand trigger is like just through Zapier's Chrome extension. So here, like I can see like pretty much all my Zapier agents that I run. So you can like just kind of trigger it through just by clicking there. But I'm gonna put my instructions. So when I say repurpose, ask me to provide the blog post. Once you have the blog post link, turn the blog post into multiple tweets and multiple LinkedIn posts based on my content strategy mentioned in this document. So again, I'm giving it the knowledge by referring it to the document where I have my content strategy. Additionally, give a few ideas on how to turn that blog post content into short form videos, including video hooks. Compile all the results and send a well-formatted email to me. Here's my Gmail step. If I go here, I'm going to define the exact document that I have because I don't want it to mess it up. It's a static step. It doesn't need to change. If I go to my Gmail, actually I'm letting AI agent define here. Subject, letting it define. Body, let it define. Very straightforward, very simple. Let's just go to agent preview and test a trigger. So let's just test with Sora 2 prompting guide by OpenAI. So the idea here was that, let's just say you're browsing internet, you come across something and you want to like just create it as a marketing material. Again, based on like, your prompt, you can be like, hey, here's this document about my company, reformat how it kind of relates to my company. Maybe you can be like, hey, turn this into a lead magnet with Gamma. Possibilities are endless depending on what you want to do. Let me call this something I can find quickly. What should we call it? VTJ demo. I'm just changing the name so I can easily find it here. I play around and test a lot just because of like, I like testing things out, what's possible. So I've got like a whole bunch of stuff here. I don't know, stop me if you see it somewhere here. We're just calling it VTJ. Okay, there we go. Include message, run. Another live test, let's see. So far we've been good. 2 out of 3 demos so far, no bugs, no troubleshooting.
I think you cheated on the second one though, you showed us the results.
Oh, I think it's probably done now. Maybe we can go check. We're just waiting for it to run. Okay. Well, this is kind of funny to be honest, because I said like only run this automation when I say repurpose. And in this scenario, I just gave it the link right away. It says, I see you provided a link to Sora to prompting guide. However, based on instructions, when you say repurpose, I need to ask you yada, yada, yada. It's kind of funny. So let's just say repurpose now, if I can spell that one right. Okay, now it's complying. Hey, at least it's good at following instructions. So I got information from my Google Docs. Now it's fetching the blog post content. I'm pretty sure it'll be like, this is so slow. I want it to be fast because our attention spans. So it's done everything else. Now it's just creating a well-formatted email, I think. It says you should have received an email. There we go. Well, it's not formatted, but we have the email. Let's say if we can try to fix it here. Well, it says well-formatted here. So maybe we just have to define the structure for the format. Or maybe it's just because it's email. It's just like not able to do the HTML rendering here. But if I do Google Docs, it might be better results. I mean, for me, like, because I want my prompt to be like a lot more enhanced and enriched, so I just use Prompt Genie. Like, so we have a Chrome extension. So if I just go to ChatGPT, I can like just kind of like type my task and let Prompt Genie like do it right away. Or I can just like bring all my saved prompts as well right away. So this is researching exact phrases that my customers are using for my Google reviews. So again, all these are my prompts. We're going to be launching integration soon for Zapier as well. So when you're building within Zapier, you can just like build a prompt right away. But the whole idea of Prompt Genie is to like start sharing your prompts within the teams. Like, we see that a lot of people like within a team, there's 2 people good at it using AI, 8 of them, not really. Now you can like start building a shared repository. You start doing version controls. Your prompt was great. Let's enhance, let's iterate. But you can still retain your older versions just in case you want to go back and stuff like that, which is where like really the Prompt Genie value is for the teams. Where were we? Yeah, we're getting the results here. It's still running and writing its stuff, but that's where you can start sort of like testing and comparing and start adding iterations to your prompts and like building that repository for your team that they can also leverage.
I hope this was useful and I hope you have some ideas flowing. So if you want to capitalize on the time you just spent watching this video, I would highly encourage you to use the next 10-15 minutes to actually put this into practice, or else I know you're going to forget about it. So if you don't have an idea of what agent you can build, just go to ChatGPT and ask it to identify an AI agent you can build on Zapier based on everything you do for work. And then go to Zapier and try building that agent. And let me know in the comments what you end up building. I hope this was useful as ever. We'll see you in the next videos. Your Chief AI Officer signing off.